Congress is working on rolling out the 28th Amendment. It's becoming freaky, like almost dystopian, almost Black Mirror. You don't need to have an ID to vote. You can just go in off the street with, your swim trunks on and nothing else and vote and just say, yeah, I'm Andy Shectman and okay, Andy, go vote. Then Andy goes there with his ID and says, what the hell? I'm Andy. No, it shows you already voted. I mean, the whole thing is just absurd. It's a privilege to vote. If you are a felon, you can never vote again. But if you're in this country illegally, I guess it don't matter. The port's closed, and that's a big deal from Maine to Texas. 90% of internationally traded products are sent by ship. JP Morgan estimates that the strike will cost $5 billion a day. 40 days before the election, you want to talk red flag. What the hell are they thinking mass casualty event? Are they trying to foreshadow something? Are they trying to scare people? I mean, it's scary if you think about it. Like, what the hell are they thinking? Gavin Newsom signed a bill into law. It's law now in California. These idiots, this moron that bans and bars local governments from basically saying, show me your ID if you want to vote. Nope, you don't need an ID to vote anymore. It's like, where the hell are we living, man?
Thank you for tuning in to the Silver Stacking Podcast featuring yours truly and the man, the myth, the legendary Andy Shectman. You might want to grab some popcorn because this episode gets very deep. It's very emotional. It's very frustrating. It's very real. We already got done recording this episode. I'm filming this introduction afterwards. And I must say, I really hope you stick all the way through because Andy covers a lot of current events, some that I had no idea was even happening, like the 28th Amendment and a few others. This is very real stuff. I hope you guys enjoy. Remember, I am a broker for Miles Franklin. Andy Shectman is the CEO. If you wanted to purchase any of that shiny stuff, you can email me, slayer@milesfranklin.com, or call me 330-485-6172, and I'd be happy to take care of you. Anyways, with that said, make sure you subscribe and let's talk silver.
It's good to see you too, brother. You look good. I'm good, man. It's a crazy world we live in, man. It just seems to be getting crazier by the day. Since we're speaking of stupidity and crazy, check this out. I want you to think about this. And I don't know, it just kind of hit me over the head like a ton of bricks. And it's really not metals related at all, but you wonder what the hell's going on in the up at the top. What the hell are these people thinking? So here we are, first day of October, and we have the election in under about 4 weeks, just over 40, 35 days or so. And I read an article in the Washington Post that says Congress is working on rolling out the 28th Amendment, also known as the Continuity Amendment. Have you heard of this?
No.
Yeah, I mean, you can't make this shit up, Jay. I mean, you can't, because sometimes I wonder what the hell is behind this. And is there a fine line between conspiracy and reality? Is there a fine line between pessimism and realism? I don't know, man, but you got to ask yourself, with all the shit that's going on around the world right now, why are they going to bring out what I'm about to ask you or read to you? Why the hell would they do this less than 40 days before the election? Congress is working on rolling out the 28th Amendment, and it ain't easy to roll out an amendment. There's only been 28 in 300 years, or 27. It's not, you have to have a majority of both the House and the Senate. It's not easy. But anyways, Congress is working on rolling out the 28th Amendment, also known as the Continuity Amendment. This would allow, get this, for the immediate replacement. I want you to think of the way they put Kamala Harris in replacing Biden without an election. This would allow for the immediate replacement of 100 or more members of Congress in the event of a mass casualty without holding an election or involving voter participation. This is exactly what they did with Biden and Harris. He's out. They put her in. There was no what's called a special election. Traditionally, we've had hundreds of these special elections over the years. A situation where maybe a guy or a gal is elected, and they decide, screw it, the world's too crazy, I'm not going to run, I'm out. Or maybe they die in an accident, or whatever it may be. A special election would be held to fill that seat. but that's no longer the case according to this amendment if it passes. And that's the craziness of 2024, where, 40 days before the election, you want to talk red flag. What the hell are they thinking? Mass casualty event. And their proposed constitutional amendment would require each member of the House to submit the names of at least 5 individuals from his or her political party to their state governor. In the event of a mass casualty event, the governor would choose a name from the list within 10 days, and the House Speaker would be required to seat them immediately. Think about that for a second. Now ask yourself, what the hell do they need to roll that out for in an amendment 40 days before the biggest election in this country's history? Are they trying to foreshadow something? Are they trying to scare people? I mean, it's scary if you think about it. Like, what the hell are they thinking if there's a mass casualty event? Are they basically, there was that show with Kiefer Sutherland where, designated survivor, where basically it was during the Congress gets bombed and they're all gone. So you have to leave someone back at the White House, the designated survivor. Well, it's just a little spooky and a little eerie, and I just wanted to throw it out from the too stupid to be stupid category. But while we're on that topic, let me give you one more too stupid to be stupid, maybe 2 more too stupid to be stupid. And then we can talk markets, because I think it's sometimes nice to talk things other than the markets. But here's one. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill into law Thursday that bars local governments from enacting laws to require residents to show a valid form of identification in order to vote. Let me read that again. Gavin Newsom signed a bill into law. It's law now in California. These idiots, this moron that bans and bars local governments from basically saying, show me your ID if you want to vote. Nope, you don't need an ID to vote anymore. It's like, where the hell are we living, man? And then the last one that's kind of spooky, Ford has patented a new system, Ford, the auto manufacturer, that per the filing would use several different sources of information to customize ad content to play in your car. One such information stream that this hypothetical system would use to determine what sort of ads to serve could be the voice commands you've given to the car. It could also identify your voice and recognize you and your ad preferences and those of your passengers. Finally, it could listen to your conversations and determine if it's better to serve you as a visual ad while you're talking or an audio ad while there's a lull in the conversation. So now you got Alexa listening to you, you have your phones listening to you, now you have Ford Motor Company listening to you. When we talk about the erosion of privacy, it's real. As a side note, I had my in-laws here a few months ago, and this older man that I used to know died that my in-laws knew. And they had 2 daughters. I knew one of the daughters, the older daughter, and my wife was friends with the younger daughter. And we're talking outside in my backyard, sitting around having a drink and talking about this. And I said to my father-in-law, did you know such and such passed away? He's like, yeah, it's sad. He has 2 very nice daughters. I hope they're okay. I said, yeah, I was very good friends with the older daughter. Nitsa was her name. And my wife says, yeah, and I was very good friends with Molly, the younger daughter. And that was it. We talked about, that was it. And my wife says, yeah, I haven't seen Nitsa since I was a little girl, but I used to be friends with Molly up until, into my 30s and 40s. The next morning, I'm not on Facebook, right? The next morning, my wife gets a thing on Facebook that says, you should friend Nitsa, such and such. It was obviously listening to the conversation, and Facebook said, you should friend this person. And she hasn't mentioned her name in years, maybe 30 years or longer. And so when we talk about owning gold and silver as a form of immunity from the matrix, it's becoming freaky, like almost dystopian, almost Black Mirror-ish, like everything's listening to you, even your car and your phone and your Alexa and your iPad and God knows what else. And you don't need to have an ID to vote. You can just go in off the street with, your swim trunks on and nothing else and vote and just say, yeah, I'm Andy Shectman. And okay, Andy, go vote. Then Andy goes there with his ID and says, well, what the hell? I'm Andy. No, it shows you already voted. I mean, the whole thing is just absurd. And then we have our Congress busy at work at a world when the country's upside down, talking about a mass casualty event and sidestepping what has been a several hundred-year-old tradition of having a special election. No, just like Kamala, we're just going to put them in there. We are becoming a different country, my brother, from where we once were. So now that I got all the stupidity out of the way, happy to chat about it or move on to the markets.
So if we're talking about elections or faulty elections or rigging elections, not having to show IDs would be the easiest route. I mean, what about double voting? Or, of course, they're doing this because all of the illegals they brought over, they would want to vote for X candidate, obviously, but that just seems so crazy. Like, that cannot be real. I honestly, like, is that real? Like, did they push this or is he trying,
It's
is
a
Gavin
it's a
trying?
law. It was passed on Thursday. It is
That
a law.
is insane.
And and you look at you read their rationalization, and I want to puke reading it. I mean, someone could go to, come here to Florida from Georgia and just say that they're me. Well, in Florida that wouldn't fly, but you know,
Yeah.
someone could be in Nevada, go into California, open the phone book. Yeah, my name is Jaime Pipic. Okay, Jaime, well, you're good to go. I mean, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but all I can tell you is that it's a privilege to vote. If you are a felon, you can never vote again. But if you're in this country illegally, I guess it don't matter. And
Right.
and if you are so, I mean, and they try and basically say this is about the underprivileged. Well, give me a freaking break, man. I don't care how poor you are. You can have government ID. You can go
Right.
in and get a non-driver's license ID if you have to. And I mean, what world do we live in where you don't have to have ID to do things as monumental as voting, which is the pillar of this country, right? Um, I don't know. It's just I wonder sometimes. I mean, are we living in bizarro world? It's bad enough that we don't know what a boy and a girl is. It's bad enough that you are identified by your lifestyle rather than by your merit. It's bad enough that the inner cities are lawless and crazy and dangerous. It's bad enough that the world questions the integrity of our judicial system, our immigration system, our electoral system. And you wonder, we should be doing all we can to shore that up. Instead, this idiot, Gavin Newsom, who happens to be Nancy Pelosi's nephew, it's just, you can't make up the stupidity. And don't these people love their families? Don't these people love the country that they grew up in, that gave them all these opportunities? Or are they just selling us all down the river for a bigger agenda?
Mm.
Holier than thou agenda, the same guy that mandated no one could leave their house but was eating at the French Laundry with all of his friends without wearing a mask. The whole thing is just pathetic, and it all is part of a bigger picture. It isn't about silver, it isn't about gold, but when you put all of these pieces together, the irresponsible fiscal policy, the brain dead monetary policy, the sanctioning of the currency, the image that we are squandering around the globe, and then all of the stuff here, from the borders to the elections to the judicial system to the wokeness to all of it. It's not lost on the rest of the world. It's not lost on our creditors. And when we live in a world that is based upon trust, because we aren't backed by anything anymore, so it is the full faith and trust and credit. Well, we already know we're broken and solvent, 123% debt to GDP. So throw the credit thing out the window. That doesn't even take into account the 200 trillion in unfunded liabilities and the faith. I mean, how do you have faith in a country that the world views as completely hypocritical and off the rails? So I bring these stories up not because they're sensational, but because to me it's all part of the same shit Sunday. And it's these individual pieces in and of themselves are noteworthy, but you put them together in the same dish and you're like, my God, I mean, look at what's happening. Whether it be Cloward Piven, whether it be, are we trying to lose the reserve standard? Are we trying to reset the system? Where is the fiscal sanity of spending $1 trillion every 90 days, 100,000 per second? Where is it? Where is the history of this country? Pledge of Allegiance, honoring the flag, honoring our leaders, like our principals and our teachers and our police officers and all of defund the police. I don't mean to go on a soapbox, but I just think this stuff is getting out of hand. And when we talk about the acceleration, it's accelerating, and it's accelerating in a big way. And I think it's time for people to really start to prepare. And that would mean things such as food and water and a gun, and shoot your gun, know how to use it. This is getting real. And I think with 40 days left before the biggest election of the country, and our idiot Congress is talking about a mass casualty event.
Yeah, you mentioned something a little earlier about precious metals and being able to take control of your wealth. I've had some pretty large orders from clients lately, and they talk about how their bank makes it so hard for them to spend their own money. And she was mentioning like it's almost a little it's a little relieving knowing that now I'm in control of my money, right? Because obviously, if it was this hard for me to just get my own money, and then afterwards they're making such a big deal about it, well, then that speaks for itself, And I've seen that more than once. I remember when you talked about that $50 million order from the Texas billionaire, how hard it was. It took how many meetings with her bank you mentioned, or they
four
she had to
days
go through.
over a weekend, and that's why she wanted me to tell everyone to simply say that it's a lot easier to deposit money than to get it out. And let's not forget that you are an unsecured general creditor of the bank, and you are i.e. the last to be paid. So when you deposit money, you're not depositing shit. You're putting money in the bank, which is giving the bank an unsecured loan. You are lending the bank money, and it's unsecured. You don't have any collateral, and they just say, I'm going to pay you some interest. And for years, it's been poultry interest, but that's what the Dodd-Frank Act says, that you are an unsecured general creditor and you will be bailed in if there's a problem. So, I think if I had $1 for every time people who get it are buying large orders because they don't trust the banks, I could buy a few gold coins out of
Yeah.
that, because that is the issue. And they just today was the integration of the Dodd-Frank reform, not the Dodd-Frank, sorry, the Basel III reform, where the banks have to have up to like 4.5% collateral or reserves, and that's a
Yep.
well-capitalized bank. Up since the pandemic, it's been zero. So you give them money, they take it and buy treasuries or something. They don't have to leave it in reserve. And that's why the banks got in trouble, because too many people said, give me back my money. They didn't have it, so they had to sell their underwater treasuries. Well, if 4% is a well-capitalized bank, I mean, think about it. If you had 4% of the money that you understand what I'm trying to get at. I
Yeah.
can't think of a
Yeah.
good example, but the good example would be, let's just say everyone gave you their money for a fantasy football league, and you're the commissioner of the fantasy football league, and it's a $500 entry fee, and all you keep is 4% of it. At the end of the year, there's a problem if what you
Yep.
invested the 96% in is underwater.
Yep.
And now you have to sell it, and how do you pay everyone back? Because you only have
Yep.
4% on hand, and maybe everything's down 20%. That's what happened over the last few years when they raised interest rates by 500 basis points, and all those treasuries were underwater that were purchased at 1% and 2% interest rates. But it's a problem, and the banks are probably the root of what I think will be, some sort of a mass awakening event where a bank is bailed in, and maybe it's a bank like Bank of America that is sacrificed at the altar. Maybe that's why you see Warren selling all of his stock in Bank of America, the bank that ironically had a 1 billion ounce silver short position in the OTC market and 35 to 40 million ounces of gold short, naked short. So who knows? But as the Chinese curse says, my brother, may you live in interesting times. And these are anything but dull and boring.
Hmm. Another thing you mentioned was the phone listening thing. I do want to sit here for a second because especially with the AI, like if I'm like my phone is locked. If I was just like, hey Siri, my phone automatically, my phone's on silent right now, but it opens up. So if I'm talking and even if my phone's in my pocket, my phone is literally listening to me.
Of course it is. How did
Like it,
Facebook know we were talking about
right.
Nisa?
Like people I think still have this block where they're like, oh, like that's just ironic, but it literally is listening to me right now. How,
Siri.
like, yeah, see, like that's listening to you.
Of course it is.
Even if it's not, even if you don't say, "Hey Siri," it's still listening for the words, "Hey
Well,
Siri,"
you know what's really
and
crazy?
like it's still on right now. It's still on.
Yeah, and it's recording what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And now it's
spooky.
talking about privacy, Apple's privacy, while it's listening to me.
Right. Well,
Like,
I had this Sonos. You know what Sonos is? Sonos is a home um audio system that it's wireless audio system, and there are speakers you can buy at Best Buy, and you plug them in and you connect it to your Wi-Fi system, and the new ones which I unplugged immediately after I figured this out are connected to Alexa and this Sonos system, so you could have speakers all around your house and you could play music off your phone or off of iTunes or whatever all throughout your house, right? And I was watching something on TV and the commercial came on and said something that sounded like "Hey Siri," and look, and when I just said "Hey Siri," the thing opened up. So, but all of a sudden, I'm watching a commercial. It was underneath my TV, and all of a sudden, Alexa goes, or it sounded like "Hey Alexa," and she's like, "Uh huh." So, I mean, this is from a
yeah.
TV commercial. The whole you are being listened to, and now in the privacy of your automobile. And who are
Right.
they selling that information to? Is that being given to the NSA and the CIA? And who knows? I mean, if two would-be terrorists are talking about doing something awful, is that going to be forwarded to the authorities? And most people would say, yeah, that's a good thing. Okay, it's a good thing, but what if it's misinterpreted and there are two guys just joking about what they're going to do at their fraternity party? Or I mean, you know what I mean? It's like I'm going to kill it with
Eh,
all that beer or whatever it is. And the point of it is, I mean, I'm getting off track here, but the
no,
the
it's
the
all to the
lack the
same.
lack of privacy is disturbing, and that's one of the
Yeah.
nice things. This little itty bitty gold coin I have right here, it's private. It's in my
Yeah.
possession. No one knows that I
And
own it. No one knows where I've hidden it.
and let me pause right there. Let people know that we don't report anything. There's this myth about everything over 10,000. That's only cash in person. We don't report anything. He didn't report the $50 million
Or
order.
or cash instruments, which would be multiple money orders or multiple cashier's checks under ten
Right.
thousand dollars each.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
would do it under 10,000 to avoid the reporting and get
Yep.
7 checks at 9,900. That's reportable. You do several money orders that add up to, 25,000. That is reportable. But it's
Right.
also important to note, Jay, that would be the case if you went to Nordstrom's or Bloomingdale's and bought a wardrobe for your entire extended
Right.
family and paid with cash. You're going to get a
Right.
Form 8300.
We
Form
don't. Yeah.
8300 basically says, how did you, Mr. Silver Slayer, come up with 10,000 in
Right.
cash or 11,000? And if you've been paying taxes and your W-2 says you've been making 150,000 a year for all of these years, they're just going to throw that away. But if they look at you and say, this dude's never even filed a W-2, he's probably been selling weed on the corner for the past 30 years, they're going to be knocking at your door.
Yep.
But so it's not just investments like precious metals, it's anything with cash or cash instruments in the United States. But to your point, that woman who spent $50 million, there was no reporting. There is
Right.
no reporting if you pay
We
with a
don't
check or a
accept.
wire.
Right. We only accept check, ACH, or bank wire. None of those are considered cash. So
Right.
yeah, we don't report anything.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's an important fact to mention. In a world of decreasing privacy, the only lack of privacy that you have whatsoever in buying metals is just that wire or that check. And think of all the silver that you bought in your day, and how you bought it and where you bought it. You probably don't even remember. And so it's gone. Once you buy it, it's gone. Maybe you buried it in your backyard and you're a midnight gardener. Who knows? But the point of it is, in a world
I like that.
of decreasing privacy, it's a bastion of it. And you end up reading the watching the Great Taking, uh, the Great Taking, and you realize that counterparty risk is a real deal. So yeah, I would simply say it's never been more important to understand, and this is why the central banks, man, are buying gold and silver and selling treasuries for the removal of counterparty risk, for the removal of these types of things. Now, it's a long departure from Ford Motor Company listening in on your calls, but the same thing is true. It's about privacy and lack thereof. And in a world where everything from your cell phone to your car to your Alexa to everything is listening to you, to your all of your anyways, with everyone listening to you and everything being digital, and the risk involved across the globe in that type of lack of privacy. Yeah, I think it's one of these deals where owning gold and silver. Hey, you guys, sorry,
It's
Jay.
okay.
Anyways, lack of privacy is something that should really be, or adding privacy to your portfolio is something that is woefully under appreciated maybe from the
Mm.
outside when we talk about owning metals, but that's why the central banks are doing it, and that's why you should do it.
Yeah. I mean, just follow the money. Why are all the most powerful countries, most wealthy, successful billionaires, the most powerful banks, why are they all buying so much gold and silver, right? A lot of people don't understand how much silver is being bought. Like, how much did India buy this year already? They doubled it already within the first 4 months of last year, right? And I'm pretty sure now there's a new one about it's not China. What other country was that? I
Well, as
just
you're
read this
looking for it,
too.
I can tell
Was
you
it
that
China?
India imported 560 tons a year ago in the first 6 months of the year, which was a record year. Those numbers are up sevenfold here in 2024. They've imported 4,554 tons from what they tell us. This
Yeah.
is an acceleration to the nth degree.
Oh,
And 1 metric ton is 32,150.7 troy ounces. So let's do the math here. I don't even know if my calculator will do that. 32,150 ounces per 1 ton times 4,554. That's 14,641,100. So 14,641,000. Is that right? Hang on. Let me see. One, two, three, one, two, three. Or is it 1,464,111,000? That's what it is. So they have spent so far in the first 6 months of the year 1 billion at today's numbers, $464,111,000 in silver imports that we know of. And China, as we've talked about, the second largest producer in the world, is flying all around the world buying concentrate and doré. And this is and if you realize that the in the month of August, 8.1% of the entire LBMA float was delivered, about 26 million ounces in 1 month. 8.1% was taken off of the LBMA. How many more months can they do that? How many more months can they do that before it's all gone? And it's not just silver. Physical gold is being drawn down from the LBMA to record rate also. In the second quarter of 2024, 329.2 tons or 10.6 million ounces of physical gold was drawn from the London OTC market. And this is a market that their daily trading volume is 17 million ounces, although it's 10 times understated. So you're talking 170 million ounces of gold they're trading per day and 2.9 billion ounces of silver per day. They don't have anywhere near that. They have
right.
10 times less than that amount on the exchange. It's all paper derivatives.
Or
And
less.
that is why you're seeing the country stand for delivery, because they know they don't need to fire missiles at us like they're doing right now in Israel. Instead, they can blow up the exchanges that are controlled by the biggest Western commercial banks in the world, and one of them is going to go down. I have a feeling, I don't know why, it's a premonition that Bank of America will be sacrificed. And if you were to do that and let it get bailed in, the ramifications would be extraordinary. The amount of rush rushing to the banks to close out people's accounts would blow up the entire
Yeah.
banking system. And really, that is what they want. They want to call
Yeah.
the banks. They want to issue a CBDC, and it's a lot easier to do it on a
Yep.
handful of big commercial banks and 5,000 regional banks. So these are really crazy times, man. It really,
Yep.
really is.
Yep. I want to switch to something pretty uh, dramatic, but I want your thoughts on this. This was
Sure.
something that I talked about yesterday. So here's a statistic. This is an article. Silver, time to accumulate now. The confluence of geopolitical turmoil and stagflation sets the stage for a silver renaissance. But right down here, look at this. This is from Brown University. Nearly 20 years after the United States invasion of Afghanistan, the cost of its global war on terror stands at $8 trillion and 900,000 deaths, according to a new report from the Cost of War Project at Brown University. Then it goes into like the war in Ukraine and how much we've spent. Like these numbers genuinely are not fathomable. Like the human brain can't even,
Well, and I just want to say one
comprehend.
thing. You got all these people that I don't care what religion you are. Israel is our ally in the Middle East, and without them, we don't have any allies really in the Middle East, real allies, and and everyone is up in arms about all of the deaths in Gaza, and I get it. It's awful. War is horrible. I don't condone any war. I mean, can you only imagine, however, though, if this happened in Texas and they flew across the border from Mexico and kidnapped 100+ people, and they're still gone months later and killed 3,000 Americans, what we would do in response, we would level Mexico, and there would be the get them, get them, get them. Everyone would be. And you talk about what you just showed there. How many deaths were there in our wars?
900,000.
Right. Where the hell is the
900,000.
outrage? Where is the outrage?
Right.
The idiocy, the hypocrisy, the just the stupidity of so many of the people on the brain dead left who are doing this and allowing this and aren't playing with the full deck is rather kind of frightening. And but that point is why the rest of the world is pissed off at us. They look at us as being incredibly hypocritical. How about all the kids that were killed in Iraq? Millions of them, kids, and their population is very, very, very young in Iraq. How many people were killed there or in Afghanistan? And where is the outrage for the American military machine? And yet, and I don't know why I'm even going down this path, but I just think people need to take a step back and realize that their arguments are full of shit. And if they were to be fair and look at it from both sides, they should be screaming in the streets about our military participation, where we invaded a country like Iraq under false pretenses, destroyed their country, killed millions and millions of people, including many children, maimed many people, including our own, and killed our own in the battles of war. And yet there's no protests at the college campuses.
Right.
There's no outrage. And I just think that this is part of the problem right now, is the divisiveness and the stupidity of so many people who are just uneducated and are going out there and creating this divisiveness
Yep.
without even taking the time to understand the
Yep.
reality in both
It's
sides of the coin. And again, I am not condoning anything in war. I just want people to understand that the world looks at us as much worse than we and much of the world is looking at Israel and their war with Hamas and Hezbollah. And they came in and killed, how many thousands of people, and murdered and kidnapped. And if it were here, the outrage and the drumbeat of kill them all would be deafening. So it's bothersome to me when you try and equal all of this out.
It was Iran, by the way, that I was talking about, the other country. But listen, this just came out 10 minutes ago from this. This came out 10 minutes ago. Iran strikes back. The world knows how to work around U.S. sanctions. The U.S. has no tools left to fight gold. And then it says, leading up to today's counterattack, gold for drones. Based on leaked documents, Russia paid Iran approximately $1.75 billion for Shahed 136 drones, which were with part of the payment made in gold ingots. This deal also includes setting up production line for Russia for these drones, allowing domestic manufacture and reducing dependency on Iranian imports. Then Iran's gold imports up 6 times in 6 months. Iran skillfully evades U.S. sanctions. Like, this stuff is insane.
And you know why they have no answer for it is because in years past, these countries were not coordinated, sophisticated, wealthy, or motivated enough to stand for delivery in a globalized market. Now they do. And if we step on the price, we set the price in the West, then they just say, thank you. I'll take 8.1% of the silver float off the LBMA today, and I'll take, 5 billion. Look at Saudi Arabia importing 160 metric tons of gold quietly and not reporting it to the IMF to piss off the West. But this is going on all over the place. That was the mistake they made, is they did it through their main government authority. But if the proxy banks or the banks on behalf of their central bank or the sovereign wealth funds purchase it, they are under no obligation to admit that to the IMF. Or if they're purchasing gold that is not 995 pure, think of what China is doing, buying all the doré. They're not reporting
Right.
any of that to the IMF. So there is way more gold being purchased, not only to de-dollarize and to de-treasurize, which isn't a word, but there's way more commerce going on between these countries using gold instead of the dollar. And that's why it will be part of a new system, because there is no answer to it when it is a globalized price, and much of the globe that never had the ability to push back now does, and has every bit as much money as the West does, and can say, thanks, I'll stand for delivery. That's very nice of you.
Hmm. Wow. So, I guess we could start to wrap it up. I know this is a long. I mean, it feels like we've just been talking for 10 minutes, but it's been almost an hour. But yeah, is there any last things you want to mention? I do encourage all of the viewers to, throw your 2 cents in there as well, and let us know what you think about these topics. It's always good to start the conversation in the comment section. But yeah, is there anything else?
Well, we got the ports closed, and that's a big deal from Maine to Texas. 90% of internationally traded products are sent by ship. JP Morgan estimates that a strike will cost 5 billion a day every day. And these two entities, the Port Authority, I guess, is who they're negotiating with. I'm not sure. It's hard to see who the hell they're negotiating with, versus the longshoremen union, are miles apart. You look at China, and you have 5 or 6 young kids sitting in a computer with a joystick that are operating all of the cranes and the trucks and everything. It's all being done by 5G and by automated and machinery, and 5 kids in a room. We are so far away from that in terms of that automation. It ain't going to happen. And that's one of the things they do not want, automation. They want to keep their jobs, and they're asking for a 77% pay increase over the next 6 years, which is a little crazy. But you shut down these ports, and it's going to be a real problem if it's an extended period of time. The only difference between COVID and now, in terms of supply chain disruptions, is that this is a supply side shock, and it's due to a lack of capacity, meaning that there's a lack of capacity to unload the stuff, right? But it was a demand side shock uh, during COVID, where people were flush with stimulus checks and weren't leaving their house, so they were buying stuff online, and all of that stuff was imported and couldn't get into the ports. So the moral of the story is, it is far worse for the economy to go through a supply side shock than a demand side shock, because in the demand side shock, at least the economy is experiencing transactions. Yes, you have to wait 12 weeks to get your couch back then, or you had to wait a bunch of time to get whatever it was that you were ordering that was coming by container. But this is totally different at a time when the economies are struggling, and you close the ports. The ramifications of perishables, of medicines, of manufacturing, of automobiles. Almost all the automobiles in the United States come in through Baltimore and South Carolina, and you shut those down. Good luck getting, the headlight that you need, that they don't have. They have to order from across the globe. Or good luck getting the car that you paid for, that's supposed to be in any day now, that is now sitting on a container ship, or sitting in a port. And they also are responsible for the majority of all the bananas. They come through the eastern seaboard. 80% of all the bananas in the United States, little things like that.
Got
And what's it
banana
going to
right
do?
here.
Sitting in a hot container for these refrigerated containers don't have massive lifespans. So, but then you could talk about precision milling equipment that's used in manufacturing. You can't get it. You can't have your job. People will start losing their jobs. Price inflation will go crazy. This is just starting. We'll see what happens, of course, but I would say they're a long ways away. And I don't think that Biden or Harris will get involved and try to enact the Taft-Hartley Act, which basically says that they have to go back to work, call it cooling off period while they renegotiate, because they don't want to piss off the unions. These disruptions probably won't show up in the CPI numbers before the election. It'll be just after. So the public really may not start feeling this for a little bit, but you piss off the union and you got 85,000 people that are going to say, I'm not voting for you. So they're going to stay out of it. It would be my guess. This could get really interesting quickly. We won't feel it for today, or maybe not even feel it for a week or two. But you start getting into Halloween and it's still this way. When you talk about the retailers in the malls account for half of all the container shipments. Well, with the holiday season coming up, what does that mean for being able to buy Christmas gifts and whatnot, and the ability to have them in store, in stock? If half the container shipments are retail, and what are they going to do? Are they going to sail around South America, to go to Los Angeles? And the reason the West Coast ports are open is that they're different union and they're paid more money than the ones on the East by about 20% more money, maybe even more like 30%. They make over 100,000 a year versus around 80,000 on the other side. But what are you going to send all your ships around that way? You can't go through the Great Lakes because that's the same group that's on strike. So what are your alternatives? Go all the way around South America. Good luck on that. And a lot of them have already front ran this because this was not a mystery. They knew this was coming as a contract expired today. And a lot of companies have bought more than they otherwise would and sent it through Los Angeles. But the Panama Canal, because of lack of rain, is at maximum. They can't take any more ships. They're at maximum capacity. And how many ships can go the other way around to the West Coast? And as these alternative routes are more and more in demand, the cost of shipping will go way higher. And you already have Houthi and the Blowfish blowing everything up in the Red Sea. So container ships are already expensive. Freight is. So this is a bad omen. Pay close attention to it. We'll talk more about it each week. And you know who I mean by Houthi and the Blowfish, the Houthis and the rebels that keep trying to sink everything, which is making the insurance and on these ships very high. The cost of shipping is going way up. So another bad omen for the economy. So stay tuned, brother. There's a million pieces that are all spinning. It's like a million dreidels or a million tops. They're spinning.
Yep.
And which one's going to fall first?
Yep.
Don't know, but we'll be here to talk about it. And I always love being here with you, Jay, and look forward to picking up with you next week.
Yep. Logarithmic decay. Little by
Little
little.
by little by little, bang.
Logarithmic
And
decay.
and you can see
Decay.
it. I mean, it really
Yeah.
is an appropriate term. I get a lot of people that are sick of it. I
That
get it. They
is.
say it all the
No, that
time,
is
but
an appropriate
in
decay
everything.
of the log. Like it's like a tree. Decay of the log. Logarithmic decay.
Well,
The
and think about
chop,
like
chop,
just
chop, chop.
one topic, and that would be censorship. When I was, First Amendment was everything in this country. You could say what you want. You could go up to a police officer and say, fuck you, because that's free speech. I didn't assault you. I just said it. Fuck you. Fuck you very much. I mean, if that's what you want to say, you could do that. And I wouldn't recommend it, but it's not illegal. It's free speech, right? And then we started to see a little bit of censorship in 2019, and then a lot more in 2020. And then halfway through 2020, all the shows I were on were getting censored for saying, Hunter Biden or saying COVID or saying any of these words that the
Yep.
algorithms would shut you down. And now it's everywhere. It's
Yep.
everywhere. And now you got the UK trying to throw people in jail for Twitter
Yeah,
posts,
that's
and
wild.
even trying to bring people back from the United States if and extradite them if indeed if they say things that are upsetting. So yeah, crazy time, man, crazy world, and I think logarithmic decay will become more and more and more relevant on many different areas: currency, socially, morally, politically, economically. Bang, what does that bang look like on any of these things? And the crazy part is that they're all so connected that one bang, it's like a string of firecrackers. You light
Yeah,
one and it goes bang, 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 bang,
yeah,
bang, bang. Where does it stop? The unintended consequences, nobody knows. So,
yeah,
but I will ride shotgun with you for from here to eternity, and we'll keep talking about it as long as they let
yeah.
us do so.
Yep, we'll keep informing everyone. So stay tuned and make sure you subscribe. Make sure also, if you want to purchase some of this shiny stuff, you email me slayer@milesfranklin.com or call me 330-485-6172 and I will answer. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.